Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I want to do another short video on Bandpass Plucks, which is a very common sound in Psytrance, but it's often overlooked and I don't really hear it used often. It can be a very cool background element for other lead sounds. Maybe you have a lead sound and you want to add a little bit of extra flavor to it, then you can add one of these. But I want to show you a cool way you can make them using the randomized notes techniques that I've shown off a while ago, while this channel was still a little bit smaller. So I kind of wanted to revisit that trick as well as show how you could make this sound. So without further ado, let's get right into that. Alright, so the sound that I was given to recreate, because this is based on a recreation, does sound a little bit more interesting, and there's a little bit more interesting stuff going on. It's probably a phaser and stuff like that, some cool effects. And I'm still working on getting it as close to that sound as possible. I'll probably keep people updated who are interested in that in my Discord server, if I ever find out exactly how this sound was made. But for now, I'm quickly going to play you the reference. If you like this, there's also going to be a link in the description as well. So obviously go support the artist if you then like this track. So those little plugs here is what I got as a reference, and we're going to try to remake that, and I'll try to get as close as possible. But first I want to show you what I have so far. So this is a very simple version of the Bandpass plug. So as you can hear, in terms of texture, it doesn't really sound anything like what we just heard. But the basic principle is still the same. And the way this works is we have a bandpass playing different cutoff points, and then we have a very simple saw wave or any wave going through that. And because of the very high resonance, that kind of creates that little bandpass, that little spike in resonance, which gives it that distinguishable sound. Now in this case, we have compressed them a little bit, and we're using an EQ that's not actually being used. Also the downsampling there is turned off, so we could use it outside of that. So the only thing being used is this compressor here. Then we're going through the bit crushing, which adds the little high end, which you can also see. So here you can see it up here. And if I turn it off, you can see it's just a low thing. This on itself is already a very useful sound. But with the bit crushing, you can do a lot of creative stuff. For example, what I've done here, changing the downsampling amount. So you can set it to soft so it will transition nicely. And then you can kind of go through them and it will kind of run up here in terms of where the effect is taking place. You can see it starting high and just going down here. And then it goes back up once it goes higher. So that's a cool effect as well that you can use. That together with the, obviously the echo doing the delay. And that's all that is being done. But now I want to talk a little bit about how I'm actually triggering this sound and kind of give you a reminder of how useful this technique is that I'm using. So what I've done here is I've made a clip. And this clip here is basically a 4-bar Midi clip, which has all the Midi notes, as you can see, going up from the highest Midi note, which is G8 in Ableton, all the way down to G-2. And they're all just going to be playing here. So that's useful because then we can send random Midi files or random Midi notes to Serum. So that's what we're doing. As you can see, we have an arpeggiator set to random. So if we take a look at what that's actually playing, if we take input from number 2 here, and for example, record a little line. Oh, I have to put this to input. We have our little Midi clip here, and as you can see, it's just randomly putting in notes between the highest note and the lowest note. And that's very useful because what we can do is you can go into Serum here, and if you go to global, you can go to the pitch tracking for the oscillator, so the Midi won't actually change the pitch of the note. And instead you have to manually set the pitch. So this is +3 octaves, which is 1 octave above the sub bass. And then +5 semitones to make it an F, I think. Is it an F? No, that's an E, right? My music theory isn't the greatest. Let me quickly check which note that actually is for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an F. My music theory, it's not the best, I'm sorry. So yeah, that's 5 semitones to create an F, and that will just be constantly playing an F1 note then. But now we can use this note value here to set, for example, the filter cutoff. So you can see if I drag this MIDI clip up there and I turn off the arpeggio, you can see it's going to change the filter cutoff. Now the reason why that's handy is because you don't want to go in and have to mess with all these little things in here in the ARP. If you can edit MIDI values, which you can, you know, open up and really zoom in on if you want to. So that's a lot more useful to kind of edit notes instantly and make them easier to edit and stuff like that, and maybe record as well, because now what we've done, for example, if we play this, you can hear it's always going to be playing the same thing. So normally you can randomize them, but you might come across a pattern that you like, and you might not be able to reproduce it, or maybe when you render out your final song, you might come across a pattern that you really don't like, and you have to render it again. In this case, what you can do is you can just create a MIDI pattern like this, and it's always play the same thing. So the same thing is being constantly played, and we kind of have this controlled randomness where first we randomize something. So for example, this MIDI clip here, and then we can control it, and we can, you know, set the amount, so we can set the minimum, maximum, and we can still change it. Let's say I like everything about this pattern, but there's this one note up here somewhere. Let's go here that I don't like. I want to have that a lot lower. We can just change that, and we don't have to re-record anything, making sure that our modulation and all that kind of thing is set, or have to work with automation clips and automation lines, which might not be the best way of doing things. So this is just an easier way to have modulation that is easy to edit. This kind of only works in cases though where you're just constantly playing the same note, and if you have a melody, then it's going to be harder, because then you have to draw in the melody with, you know, the semitones or the coarse pitch, or maybe even the pitch bend, stuff like that. That gets a little bit annoying to do. So this is really cool for these kind of sequences, which tend to stay on the same note, and it's a cool way to create a modulation. So that's what I wanted to show for this video. I already done a video on this kind of thing before, but I kind of wanted to redo it and also show off the sound that I made with it. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you're new here, subscribe, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.